As Nigerians navigate its democratic journey, there are agitations or calls for a nationwide protest by most Nigerians owing to the hardship being experienced in the land. Now, the question is, can this protest be a vehicle, a very viable vehicle for democracy in Nigeria? From the streets of Abuja to the cities of Lagos and Port Harcourt, Nigerians are planning a nationwide protest to express their grievances, demand change, and hold those in power accountable. But can this protest truly bring about the change that Nigerians desire? Or are they just a mere expression of discontent? Today, of course, this is what we will be analyzing critically, exploring these questions. We will examine the role of the protest shaping Nigeria's democracy, the impact on policy making, and the balance between free speech and public order. We'll also delve into the complex relationship between the protest and the democracy in the country. Joining us via Zoom, we have Abdurahaman Abu Hamisu. He is a lecturer of the University of Abuja. Also joining us via Zoom from Abuja is Choji Pwakin from Yaga, Africa. Good morning, gentlemen.
Okay, good morning. A correction there, I'm from Yaba, Nigeria, not Yaga.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah, good morning.
Of course. All right.
Yeah.
So,
good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes, Dr. Abu Hamisu, let's start with you. We've seen this whole protesting come to shape and all of that, and we have seen the government do everything in their power in order to stop this intended protest. I mean, I still hear different groups coming out to give Nigerian reasons why they should not come out for this protest. Even though we are in a country that prides itself as a country that have celebrated 25 years of democracy. So is democracy an illusion? Is that what you think? Why is there so much fear for Nigerians coming out to protest?
Well, thank you very much for the concise contextualization of the issue at hand and the contending narratives, those opposing and those supporting. This is one of the most triggering practice in democracy. For democracy is a volatile system of administration because it always produces two opposing groups, major two opposing groups with constellation of other groups that want to try to have their voices heard. And this is why even the organizers of the protest could not give you a definite group that, okay, this is the group that is leading the protest. And every day, demands upon demands, conflicting demands are always coming on board. From the issue of hunger to issue of release of Nnamdi Kanu to issue of refineries working to issues of palliative, So this is the confusion that democracy usually fosters. And we are told that is the best form of government. Let me tell you the truth about democracy. Those that are able to practice democracy are those that are able to deceive their people and get away with it free. If you cannot deceive your people and get away with it free, then you cannot practice democracy. If you've read Noah Chomsky's book, Manufacturing Consent, this is how America deceived the world that there was a weapon of mass destruction in Iraq, and they went to Iraq and there was no weapon of mass destruction. Today, protesters have been arrested in America, in Germany, in France, simply because they are not supporting the official position of government that is supporting Israel. So if you come back to Nigeria, the same thing is happening. You say, let us establish one fact. Protest is everybody's democratic right in every democracy. So the question that whether people should protest or not to protest, if you are practicing a liberal democratic system of government, nobody needs permission from you to protest because it is a constitutionally guaranteed right. However, you made mention of something very fundamental, which is public order. And this is where democracy has not been able to provide an answer because there must be a stated position that, okay, there is a relationship between public order and people's right to protest. In an environment where protests are peaceful, where people will not vandalize anything, where public safety is guaranteed. The police, the civil defense will work together with the organizers of the protest to ensure that nobody goes outside what they are protesting for to show their disaffection. Then you could say that, okay, public order is guaranteed. But if you look at what happened in Lagos during the last protest, where public utilities were vandalized, bus terminal it's only people that are no reason that will do that. Democracy, yes, you cannot say, okay, it must be peaceful or it must be violent, but people that are practicing real democracy, that understood what it means to express their democratic freedom, the protest ought to be peaceful so that you don't lose what you've achieved, you don't destroy what. Now, imagine the amount of money that will be spent to rebuild Lagos, or those infrastructure that has been destroyed. So, for the fact that those protests were violent, we can't say that people should not and must not protest. And one last point, for the fact that the people came together to say we need to protest, that in itself is a protest. That they've said it on social media, and government has gone into panic mode, trying to solve the problems, trying to gather people to diffuse tension. That is an achievement. That is equally a protest. So what is a protest? Protest is a process, a means of showing one's disaffection, dissatisfaction, and non-agreement with whatever is happening to them. So it's people's fundamental human right to protest. But what countries guide against working with the protesters is to ensure that the protest is not violent, it is peaceful, and that people are able to drive home their point to the hearing of those in power.
Indeed, Doctor, we'll get back to you on that one. All right, Jacob, talking about this protest, Nigerians are keen, saying they have to go out for this protest. The government are pushing for dialogue, saying there should be a better ways in order to avoid this protest. But do you think that the government has actually opened, given a platform for Nigerians to reach out and have a better dialogue?
Definitely no. We've had this conversation. This not the planning for this protest. There have been conversations online, various lines of whether TikTok, Facebook, Twitter space, notifying government of the various contents of the Nigerian youth, and not just the Nigerian youth. Funny enough, even the military that will be sent on that day, the police that will be sent, the DSS that will be sent, they are also part of the unfortunate situation that the young people are complaining about. So the conversation have always been this. The young people have shared various levels of content. Government have lived in denial, believing that, okay, a protest is not going to happen because they believe that the people are faithless and all whatnot. At the 11th hour, they've started calling the religious leaders, traditional leaders, governors for meetings. Then the question has been, if we're following the trajectories of what happened in Kenya, you get to understand that the key parties to this conflict are young people. How many of these young people have the government, whether the presidency or the governors? Because this is not just a presidency issue. There are also issues that have to do with governorship. Because when the subsidy was removed, there is more money in the hands of government. We have not seen increase in salaries. We've not seen anything. There has been series of debates around, okay, how much would be increased for civil servants, and what is even the population of these civil servants, again, versus the Nigerians who are struggling to survive. So government has not really opened the space for dialogue. And if it says that it has opened the door for dialogue, it has not opened the door for dialogue with the right people. And that is why this conversation is practically ongoing. Like the usual practice, you get to see government. He talked about the issue of protest as a right. It is a fundamental right, of course. But again, because of the practice of our democracy, where government become very intolerant of opposing views. And that is why most of the times, like in the times of answers to this very moment, the organizers will always be faithless. If someone say that, okay, the people who are organizing this protest have come out to say that, okay, we're the ones that say no. In every protest situation, the identity of the organizers is always concealed. And there is fundamental reasons why such is concealed, is because government is always intolerant of people who have divergent views. So, for instance, if people are saying we need the reversal of the subsidy, whatever, even in developed clients, they give subsidies. You've removed subsidy in almost everything, and you're telling the young Nigerians who are depending on the usage of the light for them to fabricate, to do whatever small-scale production that they are doing. Now they are not able to do such things. You've taken food out of their table. So how do you want these Nigerians to even understand? Funny enough, like when you look at the issue of Kenya, you look at the issue of Nigeria, I can say this, which is maybe debatable. Kenyans are used to protest. Nigerians were not so used to this kind of protest, and that is why when we even look at the timing of this protest would have even happened longer. But because Nigerians are not so used to it, and that is why there's a tendency that when they go to the street, they are less likely to be civil. And that is why our advocacy as civil society groups have been. Protest is a fundamental right, but all protest spots must be managed effectively. Yes, people are faceless. That also happened during the answers. Again, but there were management of some of those protest spots. It is the aggression of government that actually led to the violence of answers. So if government is able to send, now government may not even stop this protest. Even if they go into open up conversation with the Gen Z community, with all other youth groups and all whatnot, they may not stop it. But thank God there's a 10 days duration of this protest that will happen. Within these 10 days, government must be seen to be serious. Government must be seen to take critical decisions, to understand even the steady request of these young people. Remember that because people have different interests, because this is democracy, you cannot generalize the demands of these young people as they go to the streets. The demands of the young people in just here where we are may be different from the demands in Lagos and other places. More government must be able to aggregate, and that is why we say some of the grievances that are taking people to the street are not just a presidential issue, because it's not just the governor that makes up the economy. It's not just the governor. It's not just the president that makes up the economy or the presidency. Governors also make up the economy. Chairmen make up the economy. So we need to trickle this conversation down to all these levels to see, okay, how can everybody go back to his constituency? From the House of Assembly members to the ministers, to the governors, to the whoever that is in government, go back and hold a conversation. Have an aggregate of these thoughts of these young people and present it to the government. And within these 10 days, the government is able to manage these 10 days without violence. Then, before the next round of protest, they have been able to do certain things that meet up to at least average to the expectation of these young people. Government have failed to be transparent in the management of its affairs. And that is why there have been a lot of assumptions about how much is going in the hands of people. It's like people are saying you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So a lot of grievances are there that are actually making people to feel that government have not been accountable, government have not been transparent.
All right, let's talk about this, Jacob. There's been, town hall announcement meeting by the government. Do you think that will solve the current problem?
Definitely no. Because this town hall, who are you holding the town hall with? Who are you holding the town hall with? You have not defined who you're holding this town hall with, whether you do announcement or not. All that we want to see is, we put up conversations with some of our friends in government at the level of participation. We say, can you hold meeting with this generation Z? That you see that they are the ones who have nothing to lose. For people like us, okay, we are married, we have children, our wife has the way of cautioning us, and when we want to get violent, we remember that we have certain businesses, we have image protect and all. This generation Z, they have nothing. Some of them are unemployed, some of them are looking for admission, some of them are harassed by their teachers in schools, some of them are harassed. There's no set spaces even in the schools where they go to, where a teacher will tell you that A belongs to him, to God, and him, he decides who to give. So regardless of what you write. So there's lots of frustration. Government must reach out to the real people on the streets, the real people in the jungles. Let me put this way. Because these are people over the time, even this peace building work that we do, we avoid the critical stakeholders in the youth population. And those are the people that we call them the special youth. Yeah, these are the people that they may come on the street on that day and perform the critical, the role that may put us into trouble.
I will definitely circle back to you, but let's talk to Dr. Abdurahaman Abu Hamisu on this one. And now, I have tons of questions, honestly, for you, Doctor. But speaking of, this protest thing in Nigeria, just like we say Kenya, I think Kenya was the wake-up call for Nigerians to say we need to do this. It's about time, because Nigerians are not really known for protesting as often as possible. In 2012, there was a protest that was done on fuel subsidy, removal at that time, where it was saying that there was going to be removal. The protest was also known as Occupy Nigeria. We saw how that panned out. Similarly, due to the 2014 there was a 10 years Bring Back Our Girls protest that also came about. It was like a movement, but it fell flat. There was no progress to it. And we saw NSAS happened. Each time there's a protest, there seem to, even though we know organizers of the protest don't really come out in order to protect themselves from government coming at them, but there seemed to be no roadmap to the demand of these protesters. And so far, it's looking a bit chaotic for this one as well, where the hashtag is saying it's bad governance, but there seem to be too many demands at the same time. Do you have fear that this could be another problem where protesters have their right, of course, and have a huge reason to go out there, but there seems not to be a solution plan when the government say, okay, finally, you're doing this protest, let's have something of your own plan on what should be done. But there seems to be that same problem. Are you scared that the problem of, the previous protest could replicate itself and at the end of the day, nothing would be achieved?
Yes, I'm seeing that tendency because most of the youth are angry. They are angry, and they have the right to be angry. In as much as my brother said, the protest and the discussions must take to cognizance the division between the entities that are governing us, that is the federal, state, and local government. I always put the blame on the federal government. You know why? Because the state government and the local governments are not the overarching power that makes pronouncement in terms of policy direction. For instance, you made mention of the fact that young persons need power to make a living, to make a living without even relying on government. The only reliance on government is for government to provide power that they are going to pay for. And all of a sudden, the president smarting from the euphoria of having won election without necessarily looking into the situation and the subsidy regime announced from Eagle Square, without understanding the consequences and the backlash, that he has removed subsidy, which wipes off almost all the savings of the young persons, maybe that are TikTokers, that are on Facebook doing online marketing, where they needed to pay 20 naira to as a matter of transportation. They are now paying 200 naira, and that affects everything. And that is why the blame is always on federal government. The second point I want to make is this. You see, wherever you have chaos, you should blame government. Government is to organize society. And that is why we have all the agencies of government, including military and paramilitary, and then the police force. If the way protesters are seen all over the world, we see them as that in Nigeria, then there will be no problem. All over the world, government sees protesters as partners in progress. And because they see them as partners in progress, they are often protected whenever there are issues to be resolved. But in our own case, right from independence till date, we are people that are given to the exercise of force. So we believe in cracking down. So if there is any protest, if there is any issue to be resolved, the language is not language of civility. It's not the language of engagement. It's not a language of dialogue. Imagine the IG of police coming to the public to say that protest has been banned in Nigeria. For me, that is reasonable because it is part of the constitution of Nigeria. Who gave him the right to say he's banning protest in Nigeria? For the fact that the last protest was violent does not mean that this will be violent. You see, when you don't intend a situation, what you do is to take precaution against those situations. So what government is supposed to have done is to identify the leaders of this very particular protest and say to them, we will allow you to protest, but we will hold you responsible or accountable if there is violence. And then they could go a step further to say, okay, what are the issues? Then they will start dialoguing with them. But anybody that make any post in support of protest is arrested. And then you expect the leaders of this protest to come and say, because they are who? Yeah. They knew what happened to Jesus Christ. They knew what happened to Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These are all people in history that protested, and we knew the fate that awaited them. So for me, if federal government of Nigeria don't want chaos, they should not create an environment that will lead to chaos. Because when you do that, you allow the leaders of the real protest to go underground. And then the people that will come on the surface to hijack it will be mischief makers that will threaten the system and bring down the system with them, because as my brother Pwakin said, those persons have nothing to lose. Our government and people like us have a lot to lose. But again, we must not fail to state the obvious, to say that to protest is people's legitimate right. But to be violent, we do not subscribe to that. So if it is a peaceful process, and then government will make that very particular process seamless by working together with the people that are organizing the protest, fine, but not intimidating them, arresting them, and making them to disappear. You are creating a chaos that you cannot fathom the consequences.
We've seen more of intimidation going on, but quickly wrapping up, Jacob, what is the way forward in this protest, or for this protest?
Okay, the way forward here is that government should, at all levels, should meet with these young Nigerians, selected young Nigerians, and have conversations with them at different levels to advocate their thoughts. Where government now needs to manage the excesses that may come as a result of the protest. So is to also ensure that you aggregate these thoughts, and the ones that the decisions of these young people that you're able to start to be seen to do should be done. Two, as this protest is would be holding, let government give protection to the protesters. Send friendly policemen who would give support to these young people as they exercise their fundamental rights. Because any attempt to create, to use force or violence on these young people would mobilize other young people who may not have even been sentimental or seen the need to really be involved.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate you, Dr. Hamisu Abdurahaman, for joining us. Also, Jacob Choji Pwakin. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And with that, we will take a break, and when we come back, we'll dive into the front pages of the national dailies. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.